You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions. Your host tonight is the author of the Pro-Black Compendium and Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, the Pan-African Nationalist, Oni. Oni, what are we discussing tonight?
Ayiti's 1805 African Nationalist Constitution is a must read. I'm ashamed to say that I wasn't even familiar with this Constitution, and I'm more ashamed to say that I don't know of anyone who's pointed out its significance, with the exception of Bayana Bello. Bayana Bello is African woman born in Ayiti, and she insists that we pronounce what others would call Haiti as Ayiti, for the reason that, it's twofold. One, it is the indigenous name, which is not something that I would particularly care for, but also because Dessaline himself decided that this is what the country should be called. And, Dessaline, as you're going to come to find out, was amazing. All right, amazing. This Constitution that was written in 1805 was impressive, but you have to compare it against the 1801 and the 1807 Constitution to really see why it was so amazing, right? And just for context, 1801 Constitution was the Constitution that Toussaint Louverture, authored pretty much, and I might have butchered his name. Sorry, I don't know, I don't know French, right? And then on the other side, you have the 1807, which was authored by Christophe, right? And that's really significant because Christophe was one of the people who signed the 1805 Constitution of Dessaline, right? So this is really significant, especially when you understand what was going on. I don't know what Pétion, which was the 1806 Constitution, what he did or wrote, because you can't read it. But as Bayano was pointing out, Ayiti had 23 constitutions, or somewhere around that number. Yeah, 23 total constitutions from 1801 to today. And of course, you have to compare that to something like America, which only had one constitution. But of course, constitutional amendments, right? And the only thing I can say about this is that the reason why I came across Bayana Bello is because I asked on social media, namely Twitter, who were some female speakers, who were some great female speakers in the African nationalist tradition that I should be familiar with. Barbara Sizemore was one of the few good ones that I didn't already know about. I knew about Barbara Sizemore, but someone pointed out Barbara Sizemore, and that I can appreciate. I already knew about Sister Soldier, obviously, Marimba Ani, obviously, but Bayana Bello actually, unfortunately, does not make a good speaker. She's not a good speaker, at least not in English. Listening to her, it was very informative. Very informative. But I'm going to borrow from Khalid Mohammed here, who is a controversial figure, even for me, in the respect that, he's, practicing this Islam, whatever, right? Or, he has like a freaking Muslim name or whatever, right? But on that note, he did say something that like kind of resonated with what I'm trying to say here, which is, he says, I believe that the education process must be a process of 2 steps, inspiration and information. So I seriously give information, but Black people are people of rhythm and spirit, so I also give inspiration. The thing with Bayana Bellows' delivery is that there's no inspiration to it. It's not inspiring. It's just raw data, in a sense, raw information. And, the thing that we don't get as a people is that you can't just give raw information. You gotta make it interesting. And we understand this in music. When we when we go for music, or even in our personal lives, when we go for anything, it's we try to make it interesting, but for some reason we don't want to make African consciousness or African nationalism interesting, and lacking that, it's like we're doing against ourselves, And of course, I do have the section in the Pro-Black Compendium on, how to be charming, and let's see if I could find that section, how to be charming. And one of the rules, of course, is ABC, always be charming, but the whole idea is that, like, whatever you're doing, like, when any interaction, you have to charm the other person, maybe I can look through and see other things, like be self-entertained. Obviously, that's another one of those rules that, like, applies to this situation. Let's see. Always charm, appear invested, keep your conversation comfortable, make your desires personal. No. Let's see. Take your time to be selected. Master eloquence. That's another one. Just being eloquent is far better than what we do now, which is we just talk. And you could just imagine it's something along the lines of like dancing. If you can't dance, then don't dance. Don't go on the dance floor and do wild nonsense. If you can't dance, don't dance. It's really not complicated. If you're not good at speaking, don't speak. If you're good at writing, then write. If you're not good at speaking or writing, then just send a video of somebody, promote somebody else's video or promote somebody else's writing. You might not be the person, like, it might not be your field, and you can accept that. And I understand. Well, maybe some people won't get it. Then you just send it to somebody who is a good writer. I'm a good writer. You say, hey, Oni, I just read this, so on and so forth. You think you could do something with this? And I say, wow, I never heard of this. And I could rephrase it or even put some sort of, but you shouldn't, because it's just like you're doing yourself a disservice, or even like, and when I said dancing, I was thinking about, when I was first thinking about dancing, I was thinking about a situation where, I think I saw, a pretty lady one time at I don't know, it was like a venue where there was dancing, right? But it wasn't like what you would think it was, or maybe it was, I don't know, but there was like nobody on the dance floor. And of course I go up to, try to dance with her or whatever. And she's like, she doesn't dance or something like that. And I say, look, we could do the band 2-step, like we could just do the 2-step, the band, and I say it's the band 2-step, it's named after us. All of us know how to do the, band 2-step, the 2-step, Of course she, laughed about that, but that's the thing too. It's like, but the lesson there is, yeah, you can say, hey, that was pretty corny, or you can even say, hey, that's pretty cool, whatever you want to say. But the lesson there, and this was like a long time ago, so I don't even care. But the lesson there is that if you're gonna do something, be interesting. That's part of the whole be self-entertained. As I explore in the Pro-Black Compendium. But the whole, just being able to joke about a situation, just being able to entertain the next person, laugh, and not necessarily be, like expecting much from, whatever, from the interaction. Just don't do that. So the thing with Bella was that it wasn't interesting. It wasn't inspiring, but it was very informative. And she was pointing out how, the 1805 Constitution was it, and I said to myself, let me go look into this, she was saying a lot of things. Another interesting thing she pointed out was that there were like 5 million indigenous people on Ayiti prior to, just like a little bit over 1,000 Wazungu came over and, just decimated these quote unquote cannibals. And of course, she makes the joke that, if these were 5 million cannibals that suddenly disappeared in the course of, let's say 20 years or whatever, right? Then, it doesn't add up, and in some respects, except for the fact that they were indigenous people, quote unquote indigenous people, so I'm not really concerned or, careful in that sense. But it is fairly interesting that, a population of 5 million quote unquote cannibals can exist on Ayiti, and then of course that there were so, inexperienced ragtag group of Wazungu, armed to the teeth, obviously, could just wipe out the population. Absolutely. And of course, I think the implication she was making was that, perhaps the Europeans were the cannibals. Yeah. But like to me, it's also like almost like a who cares, so it's informative. Yeah. But it's not really that interesting, the Constitution bit was pretty interesting. And the only thing I could say is that she was pointing out how there's this provision in the Constitution that essentially prohibits, let's say, white ownership or something like that, right? And I'll go over it. I just don't want to spoil, I don't want to speak already to it. But let's just say that there's a provision that she says is taken out over time, but it's actually not taken out over time. It's pretty much taken out immediately. So the other thing I want to say before we get into this, though, is that I want to thank you guys for, making this month a good month for the Pro-Black Compendium and Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa. I'm going to give a special thanks to Ochanda because he has told me that he's been quote unquote ABC, not just always be charming, but always be carrying, as to say. And of course, not just carrying like weaponry, but also he's always, he's saying he's using ABC to always carry around the Pro-Black Compendium. And he's engaged people with that. People have taken pictures with him to say, hey, look, that's a book that I want to get too. So I'm going to thank him, but I'm going to thank everybody else who's done anything to spread the book. And I personally think ABC, always be carrying the Pro-Black Compendium with you, is a powerful tool for getting the book out there. But this month has been a better month than other months. Sometimes when I'm saying, oh man, this book ain't, going out, I'll admit it's because it's like 2 books being sold in a month. Okay, so it's like I can safely say, yeah, not too many people are buying it, but this month was more than 2. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say it's much more than 2, but I'm not going to say it's not that much more than 2, but I'm going to say that it's not 2, and that's a good thing. It's you'd be surprised at how uncomfortable seeing 2 sales for a whole month is to an author who pours his uh, energy, his life into spreading information and spreading awareness. And of course, as you know, the podcast, part of the podcast is to get the book out, and without the book going out, it it's like it's kind of defeats the point. But of course, I also enjoy the podcast, so that's not really too much of a problem. But everyone who devotes themselves to something wants to see it succeed. So I'm grateful to everyone who's been sharing and spreading the information, and I'm just appreciative. More of you. I would like more people to walk around with the book. I want to bump into somebody who's carrying the book. I want to bump into somebody and do that. One time I was carrying the book, and I was carrying another book. I was carrying Zuberi, matter of fact, and somebody engaged me on that. But then when I told them I was the author, they kind of was like, ugh. It's a self-promoting, like, what? I shouldn't self-promote, But, it's always better when somebody else is promoting your thing, because it just, like, for some reason it rubs people the wrong way when you promote your own thing. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go into the 1805 Constitution. The first thing, before I even get into that, and I think I'll probably have to go into a break first. Let me read the preamble to this Constitution, right? So it says, so he spells Ayiti with Hayti, which is interesting because you might see other people, referring to Ayiti as Ayti or whatever, but this is what I see in the Constitution, and maybe it's just the translation. I couldn't say, but here's how it starts off. It says, "We, H. Christophe, Clairvaux, Vernet, Gabart, Pétion, Gifford, Toussaint." Interesting. I didn't know Toussaint was there, but Toussaint, Brave, Raphael, Roman, Lalandridi, Capoy, Magni, Dodd, Conge, Magloire, Ambrose, Yayo, Jean-Louis Franchot, Guerin, Méreau, Fervu, Bavales, Martial, Besset, right? And I'm just going to stop right there. Important there to notice is Christophe, Toussaint, which I don't know if Toussaint was actually a part of this, to be honest, and then Pétion, because it's important to know that they are saying this. But actually, let me look up Toussaint really quickly, because I don't really think he was alive at this point. Yeah, he died in 1803, so I don't know why maybe it was another Toussaint or something, or maybe they just added Toussaint's name for the weight that it had, but whatever reason, Toussaint, like I just said, it's right there. It says, as well in our name as in that of the people of Ayiti, who have legally constituted us faithfully organs and interpreters of their will, in presence of the Supreme Being whom all mankind are equal, and who has scattered so many species of creatures on the surface of the earth for the purpose of manifesting his glory and his power by the diversity of his works in the presence of all nature, by whom we have been so unjustly and for so long a time considered as outcast children, do declare that the tenor of the present Constitution is the free, spontaneous, and invariable expression of our hearts and the general will of our constituents, and we submit it to the sanction of H.M., the Emperor, Jacques Dessaline, our deliverer, to receive its speedy and entire execution. So that's pretty eloquent, but that's just the start, the preamble to the 1805 Constitution. With that said, however, I think it's time for us to, take a short break and then be back after, these brief messages.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Greetings, family. This is Koku, host of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. In case you didn't know, we have an online book club called the Bitter Medicine Book Club. Every month, we will select a book to inspire the Bitter Medicine Podcast listening audience to read along together. At the end of the month, we will have a call-in show and book discussion. This is a great dynamic way for readers to not only enjoy a book, but also have others to bounce ideas off of. They say if you want to keep anything away from black people, put it in a book. Don't allow this to be true. Head over to bittermedicineblogs.com and subscribe to our newsletter for important updates. Do that today. Join our reading collective today and empower yourselves, your family, and your community. Peace and blessings. You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio.
Okay, so thank you for staying with me. We're gonna go right into it, right? So this Constitution is just amazing. So we're going to read over these acts. I believe that there are like around 50 something acts, right? But they're pretty much like one sentence each. So we're going to start off with Act 1. It says, "The people inhabiting the island formerly called Saint Domingo hereby agree to form themselves into a free state, sovereign and independent of any other power in the universe, under the name of Empire of Ayiti," right? So there you go. Dessaline right here saying not two things. Well, three things. One, that the island was called Saint Domingo, right? And this is actually a callback to the 1801 Constitution. So Toussaint, this is how Toussaint starts it off, matter of fact. So in 1801, he is saying, this is the Constitution of Saint Domingo. He starts it off with, and listen to this. Look, so that's the thing I wanted to say before we even go into this, right? So there is a sister, nice sister, in the YouTube comments, right, of maybe like, let's say, episode 13 of the Pro-Black Compendium, right? And for those of you who might not remember, episode 13 is when I read from the Carlos A. Cook's Reader, right? And, you know, definitely get that reader, okay? Definitely get that book. But, and, you know, all you have to do is just email me. Send me $15 or more, you know, to $ ABS only. Let me see. Yeah, $ ABS only. You know, my Cash App. Send 15 or more to that address. Send your email address too. You know, send your email address too. You know, a brother sent me $15, but didn't send his email address, so I just refunded him, and then we had an exchange over why I would refund him, you know, and I just said, well, because, you know, I can't send you the book, you know what I mean? But, you know, eventually, you know, he came back and, you know, I sent him the book after he sent the email address. But, you know, the sister's having a discussion out of this, and she's asking me, why am I pitting Malcolm against King? And, you know, her what she's saying to me, you know, let me see, Willie Okolo, right? What she's telling me is, you know, if you're revolutionary, right? If you have a revolutionary, rebellious consciousness, then, you know, you're pretty much esteemed status as is, you know? So whether you're Cooks, Malcolm, or King, your esteem status because you were a rebel, you were a revolutionary. And really, everybody can see that, King probably shouldn't be in that conversation, but it's a matter of, what I wanted to point out to her as well as you and anybody else listening is that, you could be a revolutionary, and still be still have, still not be esteemable, if you will, or still, I don't want to say esteemable, but let's say you could still be Askari. There you go. You could still be Askari, So for those of you who don't know, Askari, that's a term inside of the Pro-Black Compendium. And I said I didn't want to keep explaining it, but you go to page 246, the 4 stages of African consciousness, and the Askari pretty much differ little from Eurasians, right? And you're going to see that in Toussaint, So the thing with revolution, because like I said, even quote unquote, I don't want to say this, it sounds disgusting coming out of my mouth, but George Washington was quote unquote a revolutionary. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, race matters, and of course, what stage of consciousness you're on, right? So you have someone like Toussaint, and the way how he starts out the 1801 Constitution. Listen to this. Saint Domingue, whatever, in its entire expanse, and Samana, Le Tortu, La Gonove, Les Kayamitis, Lele Avache, La Saone, and other adjacent islands form the territory of a single colony, which is part of the French Empire, but ruled under particular laws. Okay? And just to jump ahead, right? Because let's go back to the 1805, and let's listen to what I just said. He, compare that to, Dessalines. The people inhabiting the island formerly called Saint Domingo hereby agree to form themselves into a free state, sovereign and independent of any other power in the universe under the name of Empire of Ayiti. So he's directly stating Ayiti is not a part of the French Empire. You understand? And whereas Toussaint is directly stating Ayiti will be a part of the French Empire. You understand? So you can kind of see how these constitutions, like when you jump ahead, let's say we jump ahead to 1807. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Right. So the 1807 Constitution, you kind of see that everything is a conversation with each other. So the 1807 Constitution does not necessarily take the whole French stance that Toussaint is taking, but of course it takes other, it's a Askari version of as far as I can tell, Dessaline's Constitution. I don't know what Pétion's was. I don't know, but as far as I can tell, it's a Askari version of Dessaline's, whereas Dessaline's is an Ancobia version of Toussaint's. So again, you go back to Dessaline's in 1805. Act 2 is slavery is forever abolished. Whereas, listen to this, Act 3 of Toussaint's Constitution is, listen to this, okay? There cannot exist slaves on this territory. Servitude is therein forever abolished. Right? And you're like, okay, that sounds good. And then, but it continues. All men are born, live, and die free and French. Yeah. Yeah, all men are born, live and die free. And you're like, okay, that's cool. And French. This is in the Constitution. And you gotta recall, like just imagine being a revolutionary at that time, like being a revolutionary and wondering, and like fighting towards an end goal, and then learning that, your lead general is trying to integrate you into your enemies. You understand? I mean, like me, I'm thinking that could have slowed down the revolutionary fervor, and not just slow it down, but to a large extent, I can see how, I can see why. Like I can't remember correctly. I felt like I was supposed to look it up. I forgot to look it up, but from what I understand, when Toussaint was being captured, like, if not Dessaline's, like, people, like the other revolutionaries were like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, like they were like, yeah, go on and take him. You know what I mean? Like this guy is a hot mess. He just doesn't understand. Like, he just doesn't understand. So let's go back to Dessaline's. And this one's going to be really important. So he says, the citizens of Ayiti are brothers at home. This is number 3, right? The citizens of Ayiti are brothers at home. Equality in the eyes of the law is incontestably acknowledged. And there cannot exist any titles, advantages, or privileges other than those necessarily resulting from the consideration and reward of services rendered to liberty and independence. So actually, that one's not the one I wanted to read. So I'm just going to keep going forward until I get to it. But just to elaborate on this one, it's good. The citizens of Ayiti are brothers at home. Now that's one thing that you might know, is that, at least in this translation, it's really particular to men. Some of you might note that. Some of you might say, kind of, some of you might have already turned off, saying, what kind of feminist nonsense is this, right? But yeah, I mean, because you're going to see later on, there's a really great line that, like, technically only applies to men, but there's something important about why I'm even going over this, and just to fast forward, it's because this Constitution is like a really great template for creating a really great template for a Constitution. And actually, I want to point out right now that once upon a time, there was this organization in Azania. For those who don't know, they're called the Embo Black Movement. And they one time contacted me asking me to, assist them in, the writing of a constitution. And at the time, I was like, why would we write a constitution for an organization? Sounds like some Wazungu crap, pretty much just exists by a code or something. Or I don't know if I said code or not. I mean, technically, I could pull up the email and see what I wrote, but I think at the time it was appreciated advice, but mostly because the Constitution they sent me, as far as I remember, wasn't like it was like stripped off of a like Wazungu, like it wasn't like it seemed like a Wazungu Constitution. You know what I mean? So it's not like I was like, oh no, but just to emphasize that Constitution really, like, when you read through this, or when you hear through this, you're gonna see how important a Constitution is, and why a lot of what we're doing without a Constitution, if you will, is, almost, borderline nonsense, like a lot of it is just conversation. A lot of it is just, talk. One of the brothers on my Twitter was pointing out how, somebody else, how, they were making a prohibition on, making a declaration against, interracial dating. And he was like, on what authority? And he knows who he is, right? And of course, that there was like a conflict in there. The person didn't like being called out on that. But at the same time, it's like, a constitution is the authority. You get what I'm saying? A lot of times I also see people say, hey, get on code. And they're always fighting each other. A constitution is the authority. And that's the thing that we don't have as a people. But we had it in 1805, at least. Maybe not in 1806, definitely not in 1807, but we had it in 1805. And you're going to see what I'm talking about. But basically right here, he's saying equality in the eyes of the law, which is something that, a lot of us want to experience, right? And he says there cannot exist any titles, advantages, or privileges other than those that are rewards for services rendered to liberty and independence. So that's another thing right there. He's communicating the value of liberty and independence. You get what I'm saying? And of course, that idea that you could be awarded with titles, advantages, and privileges for being a soldier or a warrior in that capacity, and that's something that's really important too. But again, that's only under a constitution. You get what I'm saying? You don't really get titles, advantages, or privileges except for in a constitution. And of course, when I say the word privilege, a lot of quote unquote black folk, would get oh my gosh, white privilege, well, how's white privilege in the Constitution? We're protected. No, just don't even. It's not your nation, or as the joke goes, it's Nacho Nation, Nacho, like the commodity or the food or whatever, Nacho, but also to say not your nation. So, you don't get privileges of the nation. You get what I'm saying? White people get privileges of their nation. They're privileged in their nation because it's their nation. You know what I mean? You don't, the German is privileged in the German nation, more privileged than the Englishman or whatever. You know what I mean? And in fact, if you look at the later constitution, like the 1807 constitution, actually the current constitution of Ayiti, right? So the current constitution of Ayiti, and that's, obviously Constitution 23 that was ratified in 1987, right? But it explicitly states, let me show you, let me just jump ahead. I'm looking through the different articles because it's actually a really long constitution. It's like nearly 300 articles, and it's actually pretty interesting because it has a national anthem after Dessaline. It's called Dessaline, and it's a pretty interesting, really, really interesting, that there's a Creole version and a French version, and the Creole version is like legit great, but unfortunately the Constitution only recognizes the French version, and the French version is it's all right. You know what I mean? But of course that's something you want to look up. But here it says Haitian nationality, like citizenship. Basically, like the Constitution even today only applies to Haitians. You get what I'm saying? So like for instance, every citizen to decent housing, education, food, and social security. But it's related to the citizens. Native-born Haitians or Haitians shall be equal under the law, subject to the special advantages conferred on native-born Haitians who have never renounced their nationality. But the whole idea is that just be like you get privileges for being a Haitian in Haiti. So this whole idea of white privilege is more so an idea of but I already explained this to you, white nationalism. But for a deeper discussion on that, you'd want to go back to let's see, I'm gonna look up when you'd have to go back to. Let's see if I can find it. Because this is actually the Pro-Black Compendium. This is the episode, the Pro-Black Perspective episode 31, right? But you want to go back to episode 6, which is how the term racism is hiding reality from black people. Because that goes into depth about what privilege and all that kind of stuff means. In the context of nationalism. So let's go back to Ayiti. And again, this is like the first constitution of Ayiti, because remember, Toussaint is from 1801 and it's for Saint Domingue or whatever, right? So it's the last constitution of Saint Domingue. But let's go to number 4 of this, of 1805. Okay, this doesn't say act, it says art. So it's article. All right. So anyway, so Article 4 says the law is the same to all, whether it punishes or whether it protects. So the law is the same to all. Number 5, the law has no retroactive effect. Right. which is pretty standard. You can't apply a law and then, like, you can't ratify a new law and then say, oh, well, you violated this law, so you got to go to, you know what I mean? It has to be in place before anything, right? Number 6, property is sacred. Its violation shall be severely prosecuted. So, so that's something that might be of interest to, let's say, quote unquote, Marxists or something. But it's really, just pretty standard, right? And it might be, let me see if it's a derivative of no, I didn't want to go into it. The 1801 Constitution. Yeah, it says property. Yeah, 1801 says property is sacred and inviolable. This is Article 13. Property is sacred and inviolable. All people, either by himself or by his representatives, have the free right to dispose and administer property that is recognized as belonging to him. Anyone who attempts to deny this right shall become guilty of crime towards society and responsible towards a person troubled in his property. So it's a little derivative of the 1801 Constitution, but just making it plain. You know what I mean? Because it's not that important, right? So let's go back to 1805, Article 7. It's really important. Sorry, it's really important, but So 1805, the quality of citizen of Haiti is lost by emigration and naturalization in foreign countries and condemnation to corporal or disgrace punishments. The first case carries with it the punishment of death and confiscation of property. So in order to be a citizen if you emigrate and you're naturalized in another country, you can't have dual citizenship. That's what it means. You can't have dual citizenship. Also, you can lose citizenship as punishment by Ayiti itself. You get what I'm saying? So your citizenship is not guaranteed. There are cases, there are circumstances where you can lose your citizenship, and that's actually in the current Ayiti constitution, right? Let's say number 8, Article 8 is the quality of citizen is suspended in consequence of bankruptcies and failures. So if you're, an economic whatever, economic cluster mess or whatever, right? You can't, like you could lose your citizenship. It could be suspended, right? And that's something that should be important too. And remember, this is a black economy. It's not a white economy where, you're bound to, like white people have set it up so that you couldn't fall into economic misfortune. This is a black economy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's different. Again, you want to judge people based on their, like if they're in the group that's in power, how are they behaving? How are they acting? If they're the group that's out of power, you don't really have to judge them, because part of it is because of their powerlessness. But here in this situation, if you're in Ayiti, newly found Ayiti, you all get the same chance, you're all whatever, and then you're a bankrupt, failure or whatever. It's pretty different than if you're like broke during slavery. You know what I'm saying? Because who wasn't? You know what I mean? Let's go to Article 9, because there's an article that I really wanted to read, but I don't see. I have to see where it's at, because it's for some reason I read it before, and now I don't see it. But anyway, let's just go forward. Oh, actually, no, yeah, it's actually number 12. So let's just keep going. So Article 9 is no person, and this is where I said it's kind of male focused, right? And again, I said number 12 is the one I want you to listen to, but here's number 9, right? No person is worth of being a Haitian who is not a good father, good son, a good husband, and especially a good soldier. Let me read that again, right? For those of you who don't understand that one, this is like possibly my favorite, with the exception of its, sole application to men, I guess, right? But it's probably my favorite. Well, no, it's not my favorite, actually. Number 12 is probably my favorite, right? Number 12 is my favorite, yeah. But here it goes. No person is worth of being a Haitian who is not a good father, good son, a good husband, and especially a good soldier. So there you have it. In the Constitution of Haiti, in the Constitution of Haiti, it is saying that, you're not even worthy of being a Haitian, an Haitian, if you're not a good father, right? Like you're not good to your children, right? If you're not a good son, you're not good to your parents. If you're not a good husband, you're not good to your wife, and if you're not a good soldier, that right there is possibly like I tell you, if it doesn't get better, like it gets better, and that's the problem. This Constitution, not the problem, but if it didn't get better, I'd say, man, that line right there should be like tattooed on. Well, not tattooed, because I don't think we should be tattooed, but because and just to go in that, the inking of people is more related to like ancient Wazungu culture. You know what I mean? And you can kind of see this in that image of ancient Kemet, where they're showing you the different races of people, and they show you the African, and he's obviously he's dressed up in leopard. The Egyptian is dressed up just like the African, let's say, or his Nubian, neighbor, right? But then the Libyan or whatever, the white people, whatever, right? They're like tattooed up. You know what I mean? And that's like just part of them. And, it is what it is, who knows why they do it? Maybe I don't even care to speculate, to be honest. But I'm saying that this is something that we should all strive to be. Like, if you're a woman, obviously, a good mother, a good daughter, a good wife, and a good soldier. And if you're a man, a good father, a good son, a good husband, and a good soldier. So, in short, you're not worthy of being, and I'm going to say oncobia, okay? You're not worthy of being oncobia if you're not a good parent, a good, let's say, descendant, right? A good partner, and a good warrior, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you have to be married. Obviously, you don't have to be married. And obviously there might be circumstances where you're, where you're not, the other whatever. But definitely be a good warrior, like they say, especially a good soldier, right? So we're gonna go to number 10. It says fathers and mothers are not permitted to disinherit their children. So, I mean, that's just something that, and understand that, just even though that sounds like something that's common sense, even though that sounds like something that, like, why would you even say that? The fact that it's in the Constitution makes it legit. You know what I mean? Because the thing is that, like I said, I see people on, social media talking about, well, we need to get on code, hashtag get on code, hashtag, and it just doesn't make any sense. What's the code? You understand? And even if, and like, what's the code and according to whom? You get what I'm saying? Because like I'm going to point out, Toussaint has this constitution, and you're just not, and like, I'm telling you, if I were there, and I'm not saying if, like, let's say when I was there, right? I probably was like, nah, I'm not going, I don't know if I want to keep fighting. It seems like that I'm fighting jumping out of the pot into the frying pan. And maybe Dessaline's, took me aside and said, look, we're going to handle this. You know what I'm saying? We're going to handle this, Ascari. You know what I mean? We're going to handle him. Don't worry. Keep fighting. And I said, okay, man, I trust you, brother, but I don't know about this dude. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that if you want to talk about code, get a constitution. And a constitution is, when you have a constitution, you can let people into your nation, or you can take people out of your nation, and you have power. You can enforce power, and you can enforce it legally. Because again, like later on, let's say in the 1807 Constitution, they say the law punishes murder with a death penalty, right? That's Article 5. of the 1807 Constitution. That's to say that with a Constitution, like, you have the right over another person's life. You understand? Like without a Constitution, you don't really. I mean, you could still do it, but then there's like other people, other powers that can do away with you. Kind of like you do the murder. Well, there's a Constitution that says that now we can murder you. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you need a Constitution. I don't know. It's late where I'm at. I'm recording this late at night. It's actually, if you want to know, it's 2:52 a.m. So there's a lot I wanted to say more that I might not be able to say right now. But on that note, I don't want you to feel like, oh man, this guy, he just said me, But listen to me. The Constitution is like the document that we don't have. You get what I'm saying? Like, while we're talking all this stuff, oh yeah, well, you dating this, or I'm actually seeing somebody, 2 people, 3 people maybe, arguing over a woman wearing a wig, that's like a blonde wig, and they're arguing about that, and it's like, yeah, but you don't have. I mean, everybody, like, I could say, yeah, natural hair, so on and so forth, right? But there's no Constitution. You get what I'm saying? It's just an opinion. You get what I'm saying? It's just an opinion. Like this line, no person is worthy of being a Haitian who is not a good father, a good son, a good husband, and especially a good soldier. And by the way, when I said worth before, it's because that's what it says on here. But, it's obviously a bad translation. But the whole idea is no person is worthy of being a Haitian. Like, just having those values is, like, it's an opinion, but now that it's a Constitution, it's law. It's agreed upon. It's common law. It's you can't disagree with it, or if you do disagree with it, there's a problem. Like people can enforce that on you. But let's keep going because I want to get to 12 at least, right? So number 11, Article 11 says every citizen must possess a mechanic art. Right? And that's another thing right there. It's just to say that, here, in 1805, Dessaline is saying, look, every citizen must be productive. You understand? You put that in the Oncobia Constitution. You get what I'm saying? You say, look, every citizen must be productive. You're Oncobia, you must be productive in one of these, and I could put down the categories. We have in the Pro-Black Compendium, and I'm trying to revise this, matter of fact, but, not the Pro-Black Compendium, I'm trying to revise this curriculum, right? But we have the African curriculum in the Pro-Black Compendium, and we have, the I believe it's 7 areas of Pan-African mastery, like methods of food production and preservation, methods of curing disease, military structure, right? That kind of thing. So we have that, and it's to say that every citizen must be productive in those things. And that's kind of like what I said in the Pro-Black Compendium, to be honest. I said that you should master one of these, as an individual. But that's the whole thing. You don't, that's in the Constitution. So now if you see somebody who's not productive, in Ayiti, of course, because that's not in the American Constitution. It's not in the, you know what I mean? Like, if you see some lay about, worthless, blah, 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 America, has something for you. It's like, hey, you could be on this or that, But here, you see that in Ayiti, they're saying, Dessaline is saying, hey, look, everybody should have on mechanical arts. Everybody should be productive. Every last one of us should be productive. And of course, that I would tie that into the curriculum, and that's something that, I can go into later. But I mean, by later, I mean probably in the next book I'm going to write. And that's something that you got to realize too. So I intend to put this Constitution of Ayiti into the next book. Okay. But I also intend to put maybe an analysis, a comparison like I'm doing now. Maybe not, because you can always just check it out, or put in my own, like put in the Constitution of Ancobia, and make that a template for when we are in the future building nations, what there is, and mainly because of number 12. So we're gonna go to number 12, right? So actually, matter of fact, this is a good time to cut off, because those are the times to take a break when you might be interested in the next material. Then you just take a break, because that's the way to not be cool. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna take a break. Listen to this. Hopefully it's on. Just listen to it.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Black people face one problem: the problem of ignorance. This is why those who opposed us stole us from our parents, disconnected us from our continent, and enforced on us illiteracy. But now the ignorance is self-inflicted. We send our children to their machines. We detach ourselves from our motherland, and we don't read meaningful literature. Consciousness is a series of stages. The sooner we get to one, the sooner we are ready for the higher. The Pro-Black Compendium accelerates the beginner to the advanced and provides for the advanced an unparalleled breadth. This is the sort of book your enemies do not want you to read, but our ancestors would insist you read twice.
You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio.
Okay, so we're back. Now listen to this right here, okay? Article 12. No white man of whatever nation he may be shall put his foot on this territory with the title of master or proprietor. Neither shall he in future acquire any property therein. Did you just hear that? I'm going to say that again. No white man of whatever nation he may be shall put his foot on this territory with the title of master or proprietor. Neither shall he in future acquire any property therein. That right there is a requirement. Okay? That right there is a requirement. In short, like someone, I guess on the page of the Wikipedia for the Constitution of Haiti put down, describing it, Dessaline's, or this constitution banned most whites from citizenship or owning land in Haiti. Okay? So fundamental. Okay? So fundamental, but just to give you some context, in 1801, here was the Article 3. No, sorry. Article, yeah, actually. Oh, geez, yeah. Article 3. No. Oh, Article 4 and 5, right? So Article 4 and 5 says, all men, regardless of color, are eligible to all employment. That's the 1801 Constitution, right? The Constitution under two sons, right? And then Article 5, just to close it up, there shall exist no distinction other than those based on virtue and talent and other superiority afforded by law and the exercise of a public function. The law is the same for all, whether in punishment or in protection, right? So there you have it. Like I said, you could be a revolutionary in the Dessaline's tradition, the African nationalist tradition. right? Or you can be revolutionary. Listen, because Toussaint's no joke. He's a military genius. You know, his last name, La Overture or whatever, however you say it, stands for the opener, because he could look at the enemy's military formation, employ his troops accordingly, and divide his enemies, and then conquer both divisions. So he's no joke, revolutionary through and through. But look at what he's saying: all men, regardless of color, are eligible to all employment, and it's the biggest shame. You get what I'm saying? It's the biggest shame, the biggest stain on our people. The fact that there are these, radical integrationists, if you will, and the comparison would be, like Lumumba. Lumumba, great African, obviously. He was looking to, unite the whites and blacks in Congo. You know what I mean? Like it was, it's a shame because, like I said, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to edit this book that's going to have these great speeches, alongside my writing, of course, right? But I can't add someone like Toussaint. I can't add someone like Lumumba, or Toussaint for that matter, but I can't add them because I want you to look at the examples of black folk who are not, compromising or not confused, So I'm looking at other people like Tom Mboya, I'm looking at, Samora Machel, and again, compromising, all like they're just, we gotta have this white racial unity, this, we need to unite, all men are created equal, kind of yada yada. And it's just depressing, because you need to take the stance that Dessaline's took. You get what I'm saying? That no white person is going to have any property in the Ankobia nation. That's not what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for whites to continue their domination. The reality is that in these other nations, the white people are continuing their domination partly because the revolutionaries, if you will, didn't make it clear that the white people were the enemies. You get what I'm saying? Toussaint learns at his death that the French are his enemies. Now, he probably doesn't articulate it, but they, invite him over to a talk and then put him in a prison and let him starve to death, pretty much. I don't know if I can't remember how he died, but he just dies in a secluded island for prisoners, after a friendly invitation from the French, and that right there is like clue enough about what white people are capable of, not just capable of, but what their MO is, betrayal, death, destruction. I shouldn't say betrayal, because they're always following their motto, their MO, or whatever. But that's it, I just want to read it again. It sounds so good. Like I said, it's my favorite right here. No white man of whatever nation he may be shall put his foot on this territory with the title of master or proprietor. Neither shall he in future acquire any property therein. Right. So here's a little problem with here's a little problem with follow-up 13. He says the preceding article cannot in the smallest degree affect white women who have been naturalized Haitians by government, nor does it extend to children already born or that may be born of the said women. The Germans and Polanders naturalized by government are also comprised in the dispositions of the present article. So basically, unfortunately, he's saying there are some exceptions, and that exception being, this is like pretty shameful, right? Certain white women that were naturalized by the government, and I don't even know what that means. Maybe, I'm hoping it wasn't Dessaline's opinion. Maybe it was just the opinion of, another individual, But, and then of course he said the children already born. Let me see. I think Pétion. Let me see if Pétion is there. Let's see. I can't remember the makeup of Pétion, but I think he might have been like a mulatto. Yeah, Pétion's a mulatto. Right, or matter of fact, a quadroon, it looks like. I'm just gonna check what his wife was. Yeah, his wife. Or his mistress, I guess. Yeah, okay, so she was a white woman. And see, that's where it makes a little bit more sense. You get what I'm saying? So Petion's one of the people signing. He's probably like, hey, wait a second, what about my wife? What about my mistress or whatever? You know what I mean? And he's like, what about me? I'm a quadroon. How's that gonna, so that's probably what happened in that capacity. Look, I don't think you should, but I understand if some black people are making compromises, and understand why you'd make a compromise too, because these are generals. You get what I'm saying? These are generals. These are not people making opinions, like they're not social media warriors or keyboard warriors. These are actual warriors with actual soldiers, like leading their own, battalions and leading their own percent of the population. Matter of fact, like looking at Petion again, and so he's a quadroon or whatever, right? And he allied with General Andre Rigaud against Toussaint in a failed rebellion. You get what I'm saying? So he's leading mulattoes and them against the French Revolution. You understand? Like he eventually rejoined the nationalist struggle, after Toussaint was deported. But that's the whole thing, it's like you gotta understand that politics or the way how things work is that there are different factions being represented. They're struggling against each other. So you have the black, you have the African enslaved Africans, but then you have the free blacks who might not have joined the fight unless you promised them something, and they might have been able to still turn away from you and keep fighting you if you go against those promises or if you're not compromising, and the same with whomever else. And again, remember, Dessaline's is like taken out of power. Like his constitution is replaced, not ironically, by Petion in 1806. You get what I'm saying? So again, so Dessalines is assassinated in 1806. Then Petion and Christophe, are clashing with each other. You get what I'm saying? And then Petion loses power in no, actually, matter of fact, it looks like the country is torn apart. Petion becomes the president of the Southern Republic, and then a peace treaty. The country was split into two, and Christophe is made king of the Northern Kingdom of Haiti. I'm not really too up on all that, but that's the whole thing with that. You have you have to make you have to have there's gonna be somebody in the group who's like, hey, look, you have to get everybody on a revolutionary consciousness, otherwise you're gonna have problems. You get what I'm saying? You're gonna have problems. If and that's another thing too. It's like you need enough on Cobia so that we don't have to deal with this kind of compromising stuff. You get what I'm saying? Because let's say if today we went into revolutionary struggle and we needed the help of the LGBTQ because not enough of you were on Cobia, right? If we need the help, then they're gonna be like, well, we shouldn't say good husband or something. You don't have to be a good father. All that kind of stuff. And the reason why, and they'll be right, and then they might say, and we say, hey, no, we're going to keep it this way. They're going to say, well, we're not going to fight for you anymore, or we're going to fight against you. We're going to form our own nation, and that's actually just to wit. That's what happened to me in my meetings. I was having a meeting, and there was a sister. I'm telling you, she was really excellent. Really excellent sister. Like when we went to these meetings, she was like our prime defender. She was like she was the attack. She was like, I could just sit back and she would articulate really intelligently like the African culture, African role, so on and so forth. But then at one point we got into a conversation about, LGBTQ stuff, and she was just like, she can't agree with that, mostly because, if I remember correctly, because like one of her relatives was LGBTQ or something like that. And we just had this long debate, and eventually she was like, I can't be a part of this organization because I don't want to establish, I don't want to build anything that excludes, LGBTQ. And I don't know if I said I was excluding them or anything. But, I definitely wasn't, an advocate of that kind of nonsense, And I say that, and it's interesting because, like, during the time, I might not have been so well versed, but I think one brother, brought up the question of, well, should we introduce LGBTQ stuff to children? And of course that's something that could be in the Constitution. Listen to me, that's something that could be in the Constitution. And of course, the children aren't born from LGBTQ or whatever it is, unions. You know what I mean? They're born from heterosexual unions, obviously, right? But so it goes without saying that they shouldn't have any influence over the children, like a blank, whatever. But again, that's something that they would probably make a demand for, and it's like, if you end up needing LGBTQT support, you already done lost. It's the same with like, this other brother was having a conversation on Christianity and Islam and how we need to unite with them. And it's like, yeah, but if you're going to establish a constitution, and we're going to talk about that later, right? But if you're going to establish a nation somewhere, right, are you going to use state funds to build a church or a mosque? Or do you even want a church or a mosque or a synagogue or whatever, or a Buddhist temple or, whatever it is? Do you even want that in your Oncobia nation? You get what I'm saying? Or do you just want, African spirituality centers, if you will? That's the big question. So it's like, but you're going to have to compromise if you don't have enough people on your side. And that's why we should be more about converting more people to the Oncobia cause. You get what I'm saying? Or the African nationalist cause, if you want to say it that way, Pan-African nationalist cause, whatever. I would use Oncobia, right? But part of that is, look, you walk around with a Pro-Black Compendium, okay? I let's say 4 days of the week. Matter of fact, just 3 days of the week, at least. 3 days of the week at minimum. Have the Pro-Black Compendium in hand wherever you go. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you go. I mean, if you must hide it among the enemy, that makes sense. That's fine. You can do that. But outside of, like, if you're just with our people, like, have that book in your hand. Like, even if you're, drinking late at night, have that book in your hand. Okay? Or something along those lines. Right? Anyway, so let's go to Article 14. Enough talking about compromises. Right? All acceptation, and this is interesting too. It's kind of a compromise, but it's kind of not, right? So 14 is all acceptation of color among the children of one and the same family, of whom the chief magistrate is the father, being necessarily to cease, the Aitians shall henceforward be known only by the generic appellation of blacks. Okay? So that was a mouthful, right? So let's go back to that. So actually, it's a little bit of a callback to Toussaint's Constitution. And, I wasn't actually going to read it, fully, because, I just wanted to go over the 1805 Constitution, but I'm kind of glad I did. But let's go here. So it says, all acceptation of color among the children of one and the same family. So remember, this is translated from the French, but pretty much it's saying there's no colorism in Ayiti, okay? And the family, it says of whom the chief magistrate is the father. They're saying families are led by the father, not the mother, the father, right? So in a sense, you can say it's a patriarchy, if you will, but we don't even have to go into that. That's just, it's the trouble with that kind of mentality is that we're in 2018. You know what I mean? So we can look back and say anything about anything, and it just doesn't have the same application, But it is in the Constitution, and of course that's from the 1801 Constitution too. I don't know if you want me to read that or not. Let's see, because did I already read it? No, sorry. Article 15. It says each habitation shall constitute a manufacturer that requires the gathering of cultivators and workers. Each habitation. It shall represent the quiet haven of an active and constant family of which the owner of the land or his representative shall be the father. Right? Anyway, so you see that as derivative of that one. But here you go. It says being necessary to cease. Being necessarily to cease. So all Haitians are black, regardless of their color, and that's something that's, interesting again, because there is, there are black people who are, let's say, like essentially this is like, in essence, at this point, it's like the one drop rule. You get what I'm saying? It's like the one drop rule in the sense of, everybody, all shades of black are black, or all shades of melanin, let's say, are black, and that's it. That's final. Now, if you guys remember, Asim and DC's was sharing that Dessaline's, I'm guessing separately, opine that if you are light, you should probably breathe that lightness out by going for dark. We should just have, we should eventually just have a dark complexion. And as if you know any sisters or brothers from Ayiti, a lot of them have a rich melanin, I mean, it's not really universally that everybody has a rich melanin, obviously, but, I can't on the top of my head remember if there are like a lot of skin bleaching there or anything like that. But of course the later constitutions don't have that. And that's the thing that I wanted to mention before. I should have mentioned that earlier. So Article 12, my favorite article, has, where it prohibits the property of any whites, any white people to have any property in Ayiti. That's not in the 1807 Constitution. It's not in any constitution after that. It's not in any constitution before that. Speaking of Ayiti, like I pointed out to you, the 1801 Constitution says that, anybody can have any land, right? Just want to jump to the 1807 Constitution, and let's see. Well, all right. First law, of course, is one. Every resident person. Article is every resident person in the territory of Haiti or Haiti is free and full right. And then of course, property is protected by the government. Every attack against the goods of a citizen is a crime that the law punishes. Basically, they did away with that provision that that property is can only be exclusively given to black people. Let me see something, because there's a 1816 Constitution that's like a revision of the 1806 Constitution, so that might give us some insight into 1806. So right, 1806 one or the 1816 one says equality consists in this the law is the same for all, whether it protects, whether it punishes, and also equality does not admit any distinction of birth, any inheritance of powers. So yeah, and of course that's all meant to say, because remember, like Constitution, like at least think about it in the sense of America, where you can challenge something as being unconstitutional. So if the Constitution says that there's no distinction in birth, it might not necessarily mention race or color. It might not be as explicit, but you can challenge that, and that's how laws can be made. You get what I'm saying? Laws are supposed to be consistent with the Constitution. You get what I'm saying? So but let's go back to 14. It says all acceptation of color. Like everybody is black. Everybody's black regardless of shade. As far as I understand, Dessaline admits that like the darker the better. And so just clean your gene pool up, and let's just say mix with black. You know what I mean? Mix with the darker hues. Don't go mulatto or something like that. Don't go light brown with light brown or anything. Just go for the deepest, darkest. Like that's the most beautiful. You know what I'm saying? That's the aim. That's the goal. Go for black. You know what I mean? Go for the darkest that would like you. You know what I mean? The darkest. Because that would be the best thing for us as a people, and that's something that I would agree with. And of course, I'm not saying that everybody can do that or has to do that, but it's definitely recommended. Like unless you're really dark, you can skip over. And obviously not exactly, because there's probably not that many very richly melanated people around or available to you as an individual, but like definitely don't skip over it. I mean, if you have a lot of if you have a lot of bad experiences, or if you're somebody with a lighter hue or a medium hue, like if you like that person or whatever, I'm not saying pass over them or whatever, but I mean if you can, obviously, but but I mean you don't have to. I mean it's probably not the right thing to do. Like I said, everybody's black, at least in the Constitution of Ayiti. So it's no harm, no foul. But remember, when it comes to genetics, that your children, because it's really about the children. It's really about the future generation. Your children can come out lighter than you, or lighter than both of you, and that's something that you might want to avoid. But outside of that, like if you're not gonna have any children, then go for it. You know what I mean? Who cares? But if you're gonna have children, yeah, you gotta take into consideration, the health of your, or the richness of your bloodline, and that's something that's really important, And of course, if you're of a darker hue, you don't have to sweat it. You know what I mean? Like you really don't have to sweat it. Just to the other people, right? So let's go to number 15. The empire of Ayiti is one and indivisible. Its territory is distributed into 6 military divisions. So I'm going to go quickly around these ones because they're not as how do you say? Not much, like they're not as didactic, let's say. All right, so 16, each military division shall be commanded by a general division, right? So that's important, kind of, general division, right? Number 17 is these generals of the division shall be independent of one another and shall correspond directly with the emperor or with the general in chief appointed by his majesty. So all that to say that, there's 6, like Ayiti is divided into 6 military divisions, each one led by a general. And these generals are independent of each other, but they correspond directly with the emperor, who is of course Dessaline, and Dessaline's either Dessaline's or the general in chief. So there's basically 7 major generals in this formation, and that's something that you have to realize, that when you're forming a constitution, you form that kind of like these are the kind of decisions that you make, So the following islands are integral parts of the empire: Viz, Samana, La Tortue, La Gonave, Les Clemente, La Saon, La Isle Aveche, and other adjacent islands. So there you go. The same kind of islands that Sam was talking about. Number 19, the government of Ayiti is entrusted to a first magistrate who assumes the title of emperor and commander-in-chief of the army. Number 20, the people acknowledge for emperor and commander-in-chief of the army Jacques Dessaline, the avenger and deliverer of his fellow citizens. The title of majesty is conferred upon him as well as upon his august spouse, the empress. Now, look at this, man. This is something that you gotta realize about Dessaline's constitution. The other constitutions don't mention the women they're involved with. They don't esteem the women they're involved with. Dessaline's raises the black woman up in the Constitution, and that's something that it's just another magical thing to it, right? So listen to this. Number 21: the persons of their majesties are sacred and inviolable. And then listen to this right here. The state will appropriate. Number 22. The state will appropriate a fixed annual allowance for Her Majesty the Empress, which she will continue to enjoy even after the decease of the emperor as Princess Dowager. So this brother, he is looking out for the Queen Mother in the Constitution. He's saying, this is not in the other constitutions, okay? They're not looking out for the women they're involved with. They're not looking out for women. They're not looking out for yada, yada. He's saying, look, even after I die, because he's looking to rule for the rest of his life, but he's saying, even after I die, this woman should get some money. Okay? This woman is entitled to some money. I'm going to set my wife up. And that right there is like another brilliant, beautiful aspect of Dessaline's, right? More so than, these other, traders that, he's surrounded with, but that's another thing too. What I want to say about this too is how important money is too. He says a fixed annual allowance, that is important, to us doing the work, but we don't understand that, like I said, like I'm appreciative of people buying the book, like promoting the book and buying the book, because, I would like to think that when I do these podcasts, people are appreciative of them, and I think the way how you show this appreciation is not just sharing the podcast, which you're not really doing, obviously, because, it's not that many views to it, but it's not just doing that. If you were doing that, it's not just doing that. It's also, just getting people to get the books, support the author, support the podcaster, support the organizer, and that's the thing that we don't understand to do. But again, because the thing is this, that, I have, a son, you know what I mean? So I want him, and of course I want him to, look at his Baba's legacy and say, I could tell that that's something that I should go into. You know what I mean? Or that's something that, if he's pushing me in this direction, it makes a lot of sense that I go, because, people treat him good in that direction. He's doing what he loves, he's doing what he enjoys, but he's also compensated for it. It's reciprocal, because like even when I mentioned Khalid Muhammad, like his son didn't turn out like him. You get what I'm saying? Like his son doesn't turn out like him, and probably because, he saw people watch his father die, pretty much. You get what I'm saying? And that's the thing that, I wouldn't want for my son. I wouldn't want my son to turn away from me or turn away from this mission only because people pretty much are just watching me die, or people would rather just watch me die, or he's going to get the impression that people want to watch me die. I want to get him something, get him a gift and say, hey, that's revolutionary activity. That's what the people bought you that. You know what I mean? Black people bought you that. You know what I mean? I don't want him to, I don't want anything else, But of course, you can't, go into that, whatever, right? But let's go on. So number 23, the crown is elective, not hereditary. So he's saying he's not even going to leave. So Dessaline is saying that he's not even going to leave the crown to his kids. It's got to be. He's going to choose a successor, and of course he's going to talk about that later. But this is important too, right? 24. There shall be assigned by the state an annual income to the children acknowledged by His Majesty the Emperor. Right? So, again, like I said, the other constitutions are not including this, right? But he's saying, look, we're going to set up my wife and we're going to set up my children. You get what I'm saying? We're going to set up my wife and we're going to set up my children. And that's something that, like I said, he it's consistent with the whole good father, good husband, good parent, good soldier. He's not, the other constitutions are not going in like this, right? And of course I want to go a little, quicker just for, sake of time, right? Let's go to this next one though. 25. So the male children acknowledged by the emperor shall be obliged in the same manner as other citizens to pass successively from grade to grade, with this only distinction, that their entrance into service shall begin at the 4th demi-brigade from the period of their birth. So, from context, you can understand that he's saying my kids will go to the same schools, but all kids are going to enter into military service. And the only exception that my kids have is that they're not going to start at the very bottom. You get what I'm saying? They're not going to start from the very bottom of the military chain. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing with the bottom or the top or whatever is that this is something to remember too. That there's a proverb, in fact, inside of the Pro-Black Compendium. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Yeah. Okay. So it says this is on page 26. It says, boasting at home is not valor, parade is not battle. When war comes, the brave will be known, right? And what that pretty much means is that, this is the reality, is that you're not going to know who's a good warrior, who's a good fighter, who's really loyal to the people until the battle comes, until the struggle is about. And I mean, like, obviously, there's some exceptions, right? But for the most part, you're not going to know, because there's a lot of people who are going to, hear that machine gun fire, if you will, and just freeze up, or just turn on you, or just, do all that. They might be the baddest, most talking person, you ever heard. They might put me to shame, when you hear them speaking. They might be like Omawali from My Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? They might be that person. But whatever happens, you're going to see that, like no matter how good they may sound, it's the battle that proves it. And the thing with this is that, like, where you are, like usually you get promoted in the battle. You're promoted in war if you're a stellar soldier. You know what I mean? You get promoted from, so on and so forth. If you show bravery, and the thing is that it's not that everybody has to be brave. Like, it's okay to not be brave. It's okay to freeze up when you hear machine gun fire. It's not okay for the leadership or the high-ranking people to freeze up. You get what I'm saying? And that's the whole reason why some people would start off low and get high. But then, the idea behind this kind of promotion, intrinsic to, the descendants of Dessalines, is that, these are people who probably could inherit their Bible's courage. You get what I'm saying? Among other things. You know what I mean? But that's the difference. And it's like, again, like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be brave if you're in the lower rungs. You know what I mean? You don't have to be brave. You don't have to be courageous. You don't have to do anything out of extraordinary. You kind of just have to follow orders. But like you could flee, you could run away, you could do. I mean, don't quote me for that. You might get killed for that, obviously. But what I mean is that, like, the generals and the captains and the so on and so forth, if they flee and they do all that kind of nonsense, then it's like they just break the whole morale of that, that brigade, if you will, and that is a problem, right? That's a bigger problem than one little soldier, fleeing. You can handle that, you can take care of that person, but the whole, that's a whole other, situation. Or if one of these little people defect, that's a problem. You get them later. But if a captain defects, he's taking with him his whole brigade, and that's a bigger problem. So you don't want to promote cowards. You want to be sure. That's another thing that you want to understand about that one. But let's go on. Number 26, the emperor designates in the manner he may judge expedient the person is to be his successor, either before or after his death. So the emperor can decide a successor for any, whenever, right? Number 27, a suitable provision shall be made by the state to that successor from the moment of his ascension to the throne. So basically, you get paid to be emperor, So 28, the emperor and his succession shall in no case and under no pretext whatsoever have the right of attacking to their persons any particular or privileged body, whether as guards of honor or under any other denomination. As far as I understand, because again, this is a translation and there's a lot of grammatical errors, so it's a little tougher. But I guess the idea here is that I'm just gonna guess, right, that you can't, as emperor, just attack people like wildly, right? So then number 29 is every successor deviating from the disposition of the preceding article or from the principles consecrated in the present constitution shall be considered and declared in a state of warfare against the society, and in such a case the councillors of state will assemble in order to pronounce his removal and to choose to choose one among themselves who shall be judged the most worthy of replacing him. And if it should happen that the said successor oppose the execution of this measure, authorized by law, the generals, council of state shall appeal to the people, and the army will immediately give their whole strength and assistance to maintain liberty. So the idea is that if you violate this idea of not that if you as an emperor violate the rule against attacking your own citizenry, then you will be declared as being in a state of war, and you will be removed by a council of state. Essentially, it's a check and balance against a tyrant, if you will, a tyrant, or an unhinged tyrant, and that's something that's really important, because some people would say, hey, Dessaline established himself as an emperor. You get what I'm saying? As a tyrant or whatever, but you can see what it means to be an emperor in the Dessaline's model, and I want to say the African model, but we'll look more into it, right? So number 30, the emperor makes seals and promulgates the laws, appoints and revokes at will the ministers, the general in chief for the army, the councillors of state, the generals, and other agents of the empire, the sea offices, the members of the local administration, the commissaries of government near the tribunals, the judges, and other public functionaries. Now, of course, this one, I gotta admit, this is probably a little bit of a problem in the sense of, quote unquote, checks and balances. That's like American lingo, but really it's in the sense of, it's a problem in the sense of, if the people who can remove you from power, if you can appoint the people who can remove you from power, then that's a problem. You get what I'm saying? And actually, we see that in America, where Trump can fire, the people like investigating him. And obviously there's some sort of, violation there. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's one thing that you might say, like, in a Ancobia constitution wouldn't be included, So anyway, let's go back to 31. The emperor directs the receipts and expenditures of the state, surveys the mint of which he alone orders the emission, and fixes the weight and the model. So it's just saying that the emperor makes the money. So 32, To him alone is reserved the power of making peace or war, to maintain political intercourse, and to form treaties, right? Self-explanatory. 33, he provides for the interior safety and for the defense of the state, and distributes at pleasure the sea and land forces. So he can employ the army wherever, and he's responsible for interior safety. Next. In case 34, in case of conspiracies manifesting themselves against the safety of the state, against the constitution, or against his person, the emperor shall cause the authors or accomplices to be arrested and tried before a special council. So, if you're trying to conspire against the state, a constitution, or the emperor can arrest you and try you in a special council. You know. Number 35, His Majesty has alone the right to absolve a criminal and commute his punishment. So he can, absolve a criminal, obviously. Number 36, the emperor shall never form any enterprise with the view of making conquest, nor to disturb the peace and interior administration of foreign colonies. Now, this one I don't really agree with, okay? This is not something that we should have in the Uncobia Constitution, but the idea is that Ayiti will not go about with conquest and will not disturb the peace or interior administration of foreign countries, right? Foreign colonies. And this right here is a problem in the sense of, America is, involved in conquest, involved in disturbing the peace and interior administration of foreign colonies. In fact, it's involved in the conquest and interior, and disturbing the interior administration of Ayiti itself, and that's something that I wanted to point out too. Bayana Bello pointed out that there are like probably the largest gold mines in the Western Hemisphere in Ayiti. So Ayiti is like let's say, I want to say $20 billion of gold. I don't remember the number exactly, but it's just a huge amount of gold in Ayiti. And I think she was saying that the Clinton Foundation was involved in raising a bunch of money for Ayiti, and after the natural disaster, they went in and they went to where basically the hurricane was let's say, I can't recall, let's say the south side, right? The gold mines are on the north side, so all the quote unquote relief aid and efforts were set up in the north. You know what I'm saying? Near the gold mines. Or over the gold mines, and they have unfettered access to the gold mines of Ayiti, and of course she also mentioned how Ayiti when the Americans came the first time, they took a bunch of gold and brought it to Fort Knox. You know what I mean? They just went to Ayiti, cleared out the gold reserves, and went to Fort Knox with it. So that's another thing that like I said, Bayana Bello, she was not too interesting. Very informative, though. Very informative. Not really inspiring. Very informative. And for that reason, I can't I can't include her in the book as a good example of speaking. But if you want to learn something about Ayiti, there's her, and of course there's Ezili Danto. Matter of fact, actually no, Ezili Danto is the one who was talking about the gold thing. As far as I remember, I think she was the one who was mentioning the gold and the Clinton Foundation, because the Bayana Bello speech I was listening to was much older than the Clinton Foundation. I can't remember exactly, but that's the thing with not being a compelling speaker, is that people can't even remember, they just remember hearing it. They don't remember where they heard it from, and that's a real problem, real problem. And before you say, hey Oni, you're not a compelling speaker, it's 3:43 a.m. And yes, I am a compelling speaker. Look back at episode 29. That was a really good speech. Okay. Anyway, so number 37. And plus, I'm going down a list of stuff. Come on, how interesting can I be? And if I am pretty interesting, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I'm gonna keep going. Number 37. Every public act shall be made in these terms: the Emperor the First of Ayiti and Commander-in-Chief of the Army, by the grace of God and the constitutional law of the state. So that's just a bunch of, whatever, right? I don't like the use of the word God, obviously. But yeah, that's it though. Interesting. In Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, another good book you should read. But in Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, there is an emperor, or a king of kings, and his name is Dumaka, and he's ruling in the kingdom of Ghana, it's a modern take on so it's a modern Ghana, if you will, not the country of Ghana, but like a kingdom of Ghana, and he's designated in the book, he's designated as Him Dumaka, which is His Imperial Majesty Dumaka. So it's not too unusual to have high exaltations of an emperor or a king of kings and so on and so forth. But yeah, outside of that though, that's all there is to it. It's just that. So let's go to 38. So the generals of division and of brigade are of right members of the Council of State, and they compose it. So this one's subtitle is of Council of State. So he's saying the generals of the division and of the brigade are the right members of the Council of State, and they compose it. So the Council of State are the generals. You get what I'm saying? So the generals are the ones who hold a lot of power in Ayiti. And this is something that's really important too, because there are, let's say we go into America, there are certain prohibitions against generals ruling in certain parts, like the certain administrations, So let's say the Department of Homeland might not necessarily be ruled by a general, but probably by a citizen, So there's a lot of things that go into that. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to jump to the modern Constitution. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I can't remember because I read a few of these constitutions, but the whole idea is that I know, for instance, let me see before I even say I know it. Okay. Oh yeah, so in the 1807 Constitution, it says the Council of State is composed of 9 members named by the president, of whom at least 2/3 shall be generals, right? But the real point I was trying to make was about in America there are certain prohibitions against generals, being in the administrative capacity. I don't know. And the thing is this though, it's it really depends on where you are in your our story, if you will. 1805 is this is the first Constitution. It's just fresh out of the war. You want warriors. You want warriors in the advisory position for a fresh and brand new country. You don't want civilians. You don't want Toussaints. You don't want Pétions. You don't want Christophés. You want so on and so forth. Now, let me just go back because I noticed. Remember, the 1807 was Christophe, and the 1806 was Pétion. Okay. But anyway, let's go back to this. Yeah. All right. So, matter of fact, let's do a little commercial break right here. Okay. We're gonna do a little commercial break because I'm gonna talk about. Oh wait, no. Where's the one that I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk about 50. But nah, whatever. We'll do a commercial break here, and then we'll probably can wrap up this whole thing, shortly. Okay.
Greetings, everyone. This is Koku from the Bitter Medicine Podcast, inviting you to tune in to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Peace Seeker. This is Oni from the Pro-Black Perspective, and we need power. Power will not be handed to us. We need to build power. But in order to build power, we need a power blueprint. You need to study the best blueprints available. You have Garvey's. You have Wilson's. You have Williams. You You have mind. Now, you'll have Cooks. Carlos A. Cooks was Garvey's best student. The greatest mind in the world from 1940 to 1966. Yes, the greatest. Yet Whitey doesn't want you to read his blueprint. Cook's blueprint isn't religious. Cook's isn't for integration. Cook's isn't for communism. Cook's isn't even for anti-blacks. Cook's blueprint is for Africa. And Cook's blueprint is the unknown blueprint that was the basis of black power as we know it today. When you say buy black, you're talking about Cooks. When you say black is beautiful, you're talking about Cooks. When you say Malcolm got something right, you're talking about Cooks. But Cook's blueprint was lost. And Whitey is hiding that blueprint behind $1,000 paywall. He's hiding solutions from you, telling you you need to take out a small loan to get the information that can liberate you. Whitey does not want you to have solutions to your problems, but you need solutions. You need power. I will give you the Carlos A. Cooks Reader, valued over $1,000 at a 98% discount, $15. Send $15 to cash.me/$ABS-ONI with the subject Carlos and your email address, and I'll send you the ebook. We need power. You need blueprints. Start building today.
You are listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio.
All right, so number 39. All right, so this is the subtitle of the ministers, and it's interesting because there's 39 to 44, right? But 40 to 44 are missing, right? Nobody knows, like nobody remembers what they were, right? Apparently. So number 39 is there shall be in the empire 2 ministers and a secretary of state, the minister of financing, having the Department of the Interior, and the Minister of War having the Marine Department, right? And then 40 to 44 it's out, so it just says Interior regulations respecting the ministry. But this is something important to note too, just the different functionalities of a government, And again, remember that you don't have to know everything from jump, like was pointed out, the Department of Homeland Security in America was not an original department. You know what I mean? They had a Secretary of State, they had a Secretary of Finance, the Secretary of the Treasury and all that. But they didn't have like certain things that are in place today. You know what I mean? Like for instance, they didn't have an Air Force. You know what I'm saying? Obviously. But like over time you just either amend things or just, by law, whatever. Create your own things, Because like for instance, the Department of Homeland Security is not in the Constitution of America, obviously, but and it's not an amendment as far as I remember, but it's there. You know what I mean? It's a real department in the executive branch, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the executive branch. So that's just one thing all its own, right? So let's go on. So of the tribunals, it says 45. No one can interfere with the right which every individual has of being judged amicably by arbitrators of his own choosing, whose decisions shall be acknowledged legal. So that's pretty interesting right there. It's saying that you can choose your own arbitrator, and you can decide on the judge that rules over you, that judges you, and that can be held as law, right? Number 46, there shall be justice of peace in each commune. There shall be a justice of peace in each commune. Any suit amounting to more than $100 shall not come within his cognizance, though. You know what I'm saying? And when the parties cannot conciliate themselves at his tribunal, they may appeal to the tribunal of their respective districts. So that's just to say that there's a hierarchy of like if you have like small concerns, there's a little justice that can handle that, But then if you have a larger concern, there's going to be a tribunal of that respective district. Number 47, there shall be 6 tribunals established in the cities hereafter designated, viz. At St. Mark, at the Cape, at Port-au-Prince, Aux-Calais, Lanze-Avaux, and Port-de-Paix. Obviously, I butchered those words. I don't really care. The emperor determines their organization, their number, their competence, and the territory forming the district of each. These tribunals take cognizance of all affairs purely civil, right? And then 48, of course, is military crime are submitted to special counsel and to particular forms of judgment, right? Going on, 49, particular laws shall be made for the national transaction and respecting the civil officers of the state. So yeah, the laws that the nation follows and the laws of respecting the civil officers of the state are different. And, that's kind of like what we expect from America. Like, that's what we expect from, like, different, that's something we expect. This is here where I wanted to really go into. Number 50, and here's where I would have put the commercial break, but forget it now. Number 50, the law admits of no predominant religion. Okay? Again, the law permits of no predominant religion. And just to finish off this whole part, 51, the freedom of worship is tolerated. That's pretty much freedom of religion. Number 52, the state does not provide for the maintenance of any religious institution, nor of any minister. Now, this is really important. So this is the constitutional part of it. It says that there's no predominant religion. You can worship however you want, and the state will not finance any religious institution, nor any ministers, right? And that's really important. Now, for the Oncobia, I don't want to, I do like freedom of worship. I do think that we should have a predominant spirituality, obviously, and I do think that we should maintain that spirituality. Because, like I said, go back to the episode 29, about the revolutionary ties, if you will, but that's part and parcel of, Africans, pulling their resources together for a spiritual code, and of course that code would be the code of the Oncobia. You get what I'm saying? But listen to this though. This is from the 1801 Constitution, and bear in mind this is Article 6. Okay, Article 6. So we already went through. Like this is how important it is. So Article 1 of the first Constitution is that, you'll still be part of the French Empire, which is terrible and sad, obviously. Article 3 is that you're all going to be French. Article 3 is that you're all, there's nobody's enslaved, but we're all French. Number 4 is all men, regardless of color, are eligible for employment. So it's like, freedom of, yada, yada. So that those are, when you put it up there early, it's not to say that it's going to be important because you put it up there early, but, for some reason it's that early, right? But hear this. Article 6 is the Catholic apostolic Roman faith shall be the only publicly professed faith. Article 7, each parish shall provide to the maintaining of religious cult and of its ministers. The wealth of the factory shall be especially allocated to this expense, and the prebestuaries to the housing of ministers, right? So he's saying, look, factories will finance the Catholic Church, right? And each parish, should provide for the Catholic Church and the ministers. Like, he's saying this in the Constitution. And then he's saying the governor of the colony shall assign to each minister of religion the extent of the spiritual administration, and said minister can never, under any circumstance, form a corpse in the colony. So, yeah, that's it, though. It's like he's saying we're going to make a religious state. Okay? And so Dessaline's, now you can kind of understand the context of Articles 50 to 52. Dessaline's is saying, no, we're not going to form a Catholic state. But again, I want you to picture yourself a revolutionary at the time of the Haitian Revolution, and you have this dude Toussaint, going on about, what we're going to do is we're going to, form a Catholic state. I don't see why, like some people I could see some people just turn away from that. Like, nah, you know what? I don't want to do this. I mean, of course you want to get rid of this white boy, but it's like you also want to get rid of this other white boy. You know what I'm saying? Or in the words of the brother I know, he said like he don't like crackers, and he also don't like graham crackers. You get what I'm saying? Graham crackers. This Toussaint is trying to establish a religious state, and then here's the outrage of it though. Like I said, Dessaline fixes it up. He's the Ancobia version of Toussaint's constitution, right? But then here's the 1807 constitution. Okay, let me make sure I'm at the 1807. Yeah, the 1807 constitution. Right. Here's what they say about this same question. Right. Article 30. Listen. The Catholic, Apostolic, and Roman religion is the only one recognized by the government. The exercise of others is tolerated, but shall not be done publicly. Article 31. There shall be an apostolic prefect in charge of the divine worship and all related to this. He communicates directly with the president. Now, that's what I'm saying. He communicates directly with the president. He proposes regulations concerning the church, and he denounces to the president the irregularities that may occur. So they're establishing the Roman Church as not only recognized by the government, but direct communications with the government and in charge of divine worship. Pretty much on the payroll, right? The state does not at all provide the sustenance of any minister of religion, but the law shall determine the agreed emolument and recompense to his ministry. So there you have it. For a second I thought I was contradicting myself, but yeah, he's saying that the should agree emoluments and recompense to his ministry. So the law shall determine the agreed emoluments, and of course, that's a dictionary word if there's ever one, right? So let's look up emoluments. Just as you'd expect from the context. Compensation, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? Now let's go back to this. I want to just go back to this last article. Article 33 says nobody has the right to disturb the exercise of any worship. So on the one hand, you might say, hey, look, there's still a little bit of freedom of religion, but they're saying you can't do it publicly. You know what I'm saying? So of course now the reason why this is important is because anybody who's anybody understands like Vodun has prominence in Ayiti. So the first one is that, and Vodun had this important effect, like it was the catalyst to the Haitian Revolution, right? Or the Haitian Revolution, right? It was a catalyst in the sense of you had, I think her name is Cecile Fatiman and Bookman, doing the ritual in, I can't remember the name, but they're doing a Vodun ritual, as catalyst to start the revolution. And you got to bear in mind, like Toussaint was a latecomer in the revolution. And in fact, I don't want to use the C word for it, but like in true Ascari fashion, like he started the revolution. Like when the revolution was popping off, for like the longest while, he was defending the plantation of his master, or his owner, or whatever you want to call it, or his enslaver. There you go. He was defending. I don't want to say master. White people are not masters, but yeah, he was defending the land of his enslaver. You understand? As far as I understand, though, he was just a driver, so he probably didn't have like the worst position, whatever. But he was defending that land for like over a year, as far as I can tell. While all this fighting is going on, he's like pretty much killing revolutionaries, or telling them back up or whatever. I don't know what, I can't remember exactly. If you want to look up, like I said, like I put in the Pro-Black Compendium 2 books you can read about the Haitian Revolution. So can't remember right now. I mean, I could look it up, but you should also look it up yourself because you have the book, right? Anyway, but he was defending the land, so it's like this is the kind of guy, this is the guy that you just can't, So he's like, hey, Catholic religion. You get what I'm saying? Like promote the Catholic religion, and then Dessaline is like, whoa. You know, I understand what we're doing. You know, we're going to just say there's no religion. You know what I'm saying? And he's probably, again, it's probably just a concession because Pétion is there. Pétion and Christophe are there. You get what I'm saying? And they're not going to go along with not accepting the Catholic religion. So he might have, you know, so Dessaline might have said, hey, look, let's go for Vaudon. Let's make that the official. And then they were like, nah, we ain't gonna do it for Vaudon. Because again, Pétion is a quadroon. You know what I'm saying? He's more white than he's black. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, Pétion, you know, well, Christophe, I can't remember what Christophe is, but Christophe, he says, no, we're not going to, you know, we're going to be in a Catholic, we're going to be a Catholic religion, you know? Let me just double check. It's Catholic Christophe, you know, again, it's 4:02 a.m., so, you know, I might not be as coherent as you know, as I want to be. But yeah, no, you know, Dessaline's was like really, you know, saying, hey, look, you know what? Let's this is the concession. No religion. You know what I mean? If we can't just do Vaudon, like we can't do an African religion, we're definitely not going to do a white religion. And then, you know, there's other people who came around and said, look, we're going to do this white religion. You know, Toussaint was like, we're going to do a white religion. And then Christophe was like, we're going to do a white religion. You get what I'm saying? I don't know about Pétion, because again, I don't have the 1806 version. I could look at the 1816, but, you know, I don't want to bother right now. Let's go. Number 53 of the 1805 is, there shall be in each military division a principal administration whose organization and inspection belong essentially to the Minister of Finances, right? Now, here's general dispositions. Okay, so the articles restart. Okay, so, general dispositions, this is for the end of this one. Wait, hold on a second. For some reason, I don't see the... Wait, let me just make sure. Yeah, okay, good. So, general dispositions, Article 1, the Emperor and Empress belong the choice, the salary, and the maintenance of the persons composing their court. So, the Emperor and the Empress choose a salary for the people composing their court. And that's another thing to remember, too. That's, like, there's a salary involved in government, in governance. You know, and that's something that's important. Again, like I said, you know, a lot of us don't care to, you know, pull together and provide for other people on behalf of our goals, you know, our mutual goals. And because we don't want to pull together, it's like you can't win that fight. You know, I really wanted it, like now I'm reminded about the Marcus Garvey quote on traders and how traders are bought. You know, I really want to pull that out. Maybe I can make a whole podcast about that. But the idea is that, you know, white people can pay a salary to a black person, you know, who fits along their agenda. But for some reason, black people do not want to pay a salary to a black person who fits on a black agenda. You get what I'm saying? And that's really the trouble there. So let's go. And these are actually acts. So that's pretty interesting. So Act 2 is, after the decease of the reigning emperor, when a revision of the Constitution shall have been judged necessary, the Council of State will assemble for that purpose and shall be presided by the oldest member. So there you have a quote-unquote gerontocracy. And again, remember that the Council of State are the generals, the leading generals. So the leading generals, the oldest among them, they're all selected by the emperor, right? And they're, you know, maintained by the emperor as well. But the leading general, after the death, you know, may revise the Constitution. So the Constitution, you know, can be revised in that sense. And in a sense, you know, if you want to say that, you know, like whether the 1807, 1806 Constitution, like they probably don't actually violate this Constitution in that sense. You know, maybe they do. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I got goose. You know, I don't feel glad after saying that. Because Dessaline was assassinated, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Number 3, the crimes of high treason, the dilapidation of the ministers and generals shall be judged by a special council called and presided by the emperor. Number 4, the armed forces is essentially obedient. No armed body can deliberate. So they're saying the armed forces follow orders. They don't give orders. Okay? That's really important, right? So number 5, no person, and the reason why that's important is because this is something I learned when I was in school or the public school system, is that there's a lot of times if like a lot of the what do you call it? What's the word? Coup. A lot of the coups in Africa kind of relate to like armed forces, like independent armed forces, independent generals who just, take over the civil servant, if you will, and that's like something that you can avoid by, making it, let's say, constitutional that they're obedient or having ramifications otherwise, having penalties, having observation, having them independent. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you have 6 main generals and one of them, is rallying against, that's okay because you have 5 other ones under direct control. They're not conspiring with each other. As long as they're not conspiring with each other, there's, you know what I mean? On the other hand, like let's say in certain countries of Africa, and the reason why I'm using Africa is only because that's where I'm going to say no, but, and not to say that doesn't happen anywhere else, but I don't really care if it happens anywhere else, right? But what I'm saying is that you can possibly have it so that all these generals are working together constantly, talking with each other constantly, or let's say talking with America or other foreign bodies constantly. If you have that, then obviously, recipe for disaster, recipe for a coup, But let's go forward. Number 5, no person shall be judged without having been legally heard in his defense, which is pretty much, right to a fair trial, if you will. I don't want to use American terms. I don't want to use Wazungu terms. I really don't. It's just, so I apologize for that. Okay? Although you should bear in mind that this Constitution is after the American Constitution. So, well, it probably has nothing to do with it. I don't know. But the American Constitution is older than this one. So, it's not necessarily unfair to whatever, but I shouldn't, I really shouldn't. And just to clarify too, like constitutions again, I don't necessarily know how African constitutions are. You know what I mean? I think it's more like it's definitely more informal, and of course that might be a problem too, especially in the situation of foreign enemies, But I say that to say that, like for instance, the 1801 Constitution seems like maybe a Frenchman wrote it for Toussaint, and Toussaint just checked it. You know what I mean? Just checked it off. And then of course this Constitution is borrowing from that Constitution. So it is like indirectly, influenced by, so on and so forth. And just to give it some context, actually, one of the books that you were supposed to read on, one of the 2 books that you want to read on the Haitian Revolution is The Black Jacobins, and the other one is Irritated Genie. But the Black Jacobins is a reference to the Jacobins, who are the French quote unquote revolutionaries. So you have the French, they probably had a hand in the 1801 Constitution, especially since, Toussaint is, fairly inspired by these individuals, So that's something that you want to keep in mind, that like if I do relate it to the Americas, and you might say, what does France have to do with America? Well, a part of that French stuff was like looking at America and America's situation. So it's not really too far-fetched that this is like a slightly derivative of America's situation. But whatever. All right. So, but of course, you don't have to think of that way. You could just, say, hey, Oni, stop mentioning white people when we're talking about black folk. Sorry, I hope I'm loud enough. So number 6, the house of every citizen is an inviolable asylum, right? Number 7, it cannot be entered but in case of conflagration, which is fire, inundation, which is flood, reclamation from the interior, can't remember what that is, or by virtue of an order from the emperor or from any other authority legally constituted. So there are some people who can go into your house, but otherwise nobody really should go in your house, right? Number 8, he deserves death who gives it to his fellow. So that's kind of like what Christophe and them were saying about, you get the death penalty if you murder someone. Number 9, every judgment to which the pain of death or corporal punishment is annexed shall not be carried into execution until it has been confirmed by the emperor. So the emperor himself has to sign off on, a death or corporal punishment, which is pretty, interesting. I would have, if I was more animated, if it wasn't 412, I would have probably said something along the lines of, like if I wanted to joke about it, I would have said, I would have killed somebody just so I can meet with Dessalines. You know what I mean? But, not the time for jokes now, right? All right. Number 10. Yeah, you can laugh. It's okay. All right. Number 10. Theft shall be punished according to the circumstance which may have preceded, accompanied, or followed it. Yeah. Okay. So the punishment of theft relates to what happened before it, what happened during it, and what happened after it. Which is really, this is deep. It's deep. It's smart. It's and it's in the Constitution. That's good, right? So, and that's another thing. Like I said, get on code. You know what I mean? What does that mean? Well, it means theft is punished. Well, who punishes it? You get what I'm saying? Or even like, let's say you get a death penalty. Who signs off on the death penalty? Well, we all agree on the emperor. It's the emperor or some sort of person, some sort of magistrate, some sort of entity can sign off on a death penalty. So if you're doing something that's violating, the African way, we'll agree that there'll be a certain individual who can judge you, who can make the final, who could take the final say over whether or not you're guilty of that. You know what I mean? That's something that we don't have. We say get on code, but who cares if you break the code? Who cares if you don't have the code? Who cares if you don't keep the code? You get what I'm saying? Who cares? You get what I'm saying? It's like I said, people were debating some woman over a blonde wig or something, and it's like, yeah, but it's like, well, where does it stop? You know what I mean? Like, what if you're wearing a tailored suit? Is that not emulating Wazungu? You get what I'm saying? And of course, both of them are emulating Wazungu, but no one's really gonna hate on you for wearing a tailored suit. You know what I mean? A few people are gonna hate on you for that. So it really stands to, well, what is the code, and who violates it, and who's the judge, really? At the end of the day, who's the judge? My understanding is that they were calling this woman fraud for, this one person who was like, I shouldn't even go into it. I really shouldn't talk about it because it's just gossip at this point, and it should be beneath me. But I'm just saying that, there's, because I see a lot of people saying code stuff, and it's a whole different set of people who are saying that, but all the same, it's just remarkable. It's just remarkable because it's like you don't have anything written. The closest person you have to quote unquote code is Nelly Fuller Jr. And his stuff is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And he even writes in his book, like the few pages that I read, he even writes that you don't have to follow it, and it's just individual. It's not enforced in any way, and you can pick and choose from it. So it's not really a code. It's stupid. This Constitution, you don't pick and choose any part of the Constitution. The Constitution is the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? You don't pick and choose it. Everybody agrees to it. If you don't agree to the Constitution, get out of the country. Like the sister who didn't agree to our LGBTQ stance or whatever, she just said, I gotta go. She couldn't stick around. I probably would have. I don't know what to say. I can't say I would have wanted her to stay. I don't really want her to go per se, but that's it though. It's like, if you don't agree to the Constitution, you can go. But if you're gonna have a code, quote unquote code that's unwritten or nobody knows about, like, you're just wasting time even saying it. That you're just wasting time. And again, remember, this right here, Constitution. That this is what nationalism entails. And again, like I said, you don't necessarily need a constitution for nationalism, but it might help, particularly in this situation where we are constantly under assault, constantly under assault. And there needs to be some clarity, like very simply, back in ancient Kemet, we had, we would say something like, defend Ma'at and defeat Esfet. You get what I'm saying? And that says a lot if you understand what Ma'at is, if you understand what Esfet is. But like in today's age, it's probably not that clear what constitutes Esfet and what constitutes Ma'at. Matter of fact, it isn't. A lot of people don't even realize that it doesn't. Like, it's not really clear because I can't remember correctly, but I think there's only like 2 surviving documents or 2 extant documents, whatever, a big word, right? But 2 surviving documents on Ma'at. You know what I mean? Like, or 2 to 3 maybe, that like expound on Ma'at. And that right there is, it's really hard to understand what it is. Now, there are certain people who might have better insight into what it is, present company included. Yeah, I know, right? But outside of that, but like it's so nuanced, so rich that, like it's better to just write it down, articulate it, and that would constitute a constitution. You get what I'm saying? All right, you get what I'm saying? All right, so 11, every stranger inhabiting the territory of Ayiti shall be, equally with the Aitians, subject to the correctional and criminal laws of the country. So that means that if you're not Aitian, that doesn't mean that you're exempt from the correctional and criminal laws of the country. You know what I'm saying? That means you're not exempt, right? Now, number 12, all property which formerly belonged to any white Frenchman is incontestably and of right confiscated to the use of the state. So, if you formerly had land as a white person, your land is now Haitian, right? Now, this is really interesting because it reminds me of lasagna. In lasagna, the whites kept their land. And that caused all these kind of problems. You get what I'm saying? And in Ayiti, they didn't have that same problem. They said, look, your land is no longer yours. I don't remember if the 1807, because I don't think I even read this one. I don't know what they said about French land. Let me see. I'm just gonna quickly search land. I don't know what they said about land. But let's just look quickly. Right now, they're only talking about the armed forces of land. Okay, so yeah, they don't. I don't know. I don't see anything about land. But that's it though. The French don't have it. Now this is interesting too, right here. So look here, 14. Oh no, sorry, 15 is actually the interesting one. So 14. And listen to this. 14. Marriage is an act purely civil and authorized by the government, right? And then number 15, this is interesting. The law authorizes divorce in all cases which shall have been previously provided for and determined, right? So I want to compare this to 1801 and 1807. So 1801, this is Article 9. It says marriage by its civic and religious institution, so it's religious, right? Tends to the purity of Moors, spouses, and Moors like Mores. So spouses who will practice the virtue required by their conditions shall always be distinguished and especially protected by the government. And then Article 10 is divorce shall not take place in the colony. Yeah. And then, yeah. Yeah, and Article 11 kind of relates to the next article in the 1805 Constitution, but I'll just read it now for whatever. So it says, laws will tend to expand and maintain social virtues and to encourage and cement family bonding shall fix conditions and rights of children born in wedlock. So anyway, but the main thing is that in the Constitution of 1801, he's saying there can't be any divorces, right? And already that's like another thing that, anybody, fighting for this nation might be like, hey, hold on a second. You know what I'm saying? And what's interesting is that in 1807, again, it says divorce is rigorously prohibited in Ayiti. You know? So there you have it, you know? Divorce is rigorously prohibited in Ayiti. Sorry, my phone's about to... yeah, so that right there is just another one, you know? So it's like, here you have Dessaline who's doing I think the right thing, you know, because really you don't want to divorce the person you're with unless you have to. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you might not make the right choice in who you want to be with, who you choose to be with, or maybe they might change on you, or maybe you might not, you know, whatever it is. The whole point is that, you know, you should be able to divorce. And Dessaline says, yeah, you can't divorce. I don't know where Toussaint had this wild idea. But then Christophe turns around and says, hey, no, divorce is prohibited in Ayiti. Now today, the modern constitution of Ayiti, let me just check. Let me just double check. Okay, I guess they don't mention divorce. They mention marriage. Yeah, I guess they don't mention divorce in the modern constitution, but the idea is that, you know, like I would imagine that you could divorce in modern Haiti. I actually don't have any idea. Let's go forward though. Article 16, Act 16. A particular law shall be issued concerning children born out of wedlock. Act 17. Respect for the chiefs, subordination, and discipline are rigorously necessary. So you have to have, and that's the thing right there. You see what I'm saying? It's just, this respect for the chiefs is constitutionally enforced. Subordination and discipline are constitutionally enforced. You don't have that today. You don't have to respect Oni. You know, most of you don't. You know. Matter of fact, I want to say that, you know, like I expected a much larger response of people for these classes, and the response is just not there. You know what I mean? Now there's a handful of people who did respond, and I'm grateful for them. And we're going to start this class. Well, I'm recording this on Wednesday, 4:24 a.m. right now, but I intend to release this on Saturday. So, you know, I'm grateful to those of you who have signed up. You know, but the reality is that I wished a lot more of you have. I wished a lot more of you have, but for some reason you haven't. And it's like, it kind of goes back to that, you know, like respect, you know, respect is not necessary it's not necessary for us as a people. You know, we don't say, hey, look, I can take a free course with Onitaset. That sounds like some people might say, hey, that's a privilege. Most of you didn't say that. You get what I'm saying? And that's you know, that's depressing. That's depressing. You know, that's depressing. Anyway, let's go on though. 18. A penal code shall be published and severely observed. Well, actually, let me go back to that though. Because in September, I want to start a class. I want a certain number of students, but I need you all to apply because I don't want to deprive our people of an opportunity of having a robust and full class or a full group conversation, you know, unless you know, like without it, I don't want to deprive us of that opportunity. So please don't allow that to happen. And matter of fact, I think I might need a advertisement for it. Let me just look up. This is the thing right here. So the class, listen to me, the study group, the 10-week study group would be on pro-Black community building and practical Black empowerment. So that's something that necessary. It's necessary. You know what I mean? That's necessary for us to learn, but it's like, I need you to take an interest so that our people can have great learning experiences together, you know? But let's just keep moving on. So number 18, a penal code shall be published and severely observed, right? So that's just law and so forth, right? Number 19, within each military division, a public school shall be established for the instruction of youth. Listen to that again. So a lot of us might talk about homeschooling, we might talk about public schools, we might talk about whatever. We don't realize that that's all orchestrated by the state. This is the Constitution now. You know, like America, you know, like in order to be a public school, you have to establish in America, pretty much. You know, like you could technically have a private school, obviously, but then of course the financing is just difficult. You have to be a people who rely on that kind of thing. And again, you know, you got to go back to podcast 29. It tells you how you can finance any project in your community, but you know, including and not limited to, you know, a private school. You know, I want to say that like a storefront cost about, you know, how much a normal person is paid or something, right? But you know, with 10 people or 30 people, well, 20 people giving 10% can finance a storefront very easily. And then a storefront can, you know, during the day be a daycare, can be a public school, can be a adult school, can be a technical school, can be anything. Can be a dojo, a martial, Japanese, right? Actually, I don't know the word for, all right, well, I know Kubagani and Gumi. I don't know the word for the building that they meet at. But, you know, the whole idea is that you can have, you can get a storefront and just go wild with it. The opportunity is limitless, you know? There's a bookstore in Brooklyn. I believe it's on Nostrand and around Atlantic Avenue. I can't remember exactly the address, but they just blast Farrakhan and so forth all day in front of their building, like in front of their store. They just blast Farrakhan and others, like into the streets from an old television set. And that's it, you know, like you can do the same with like Amos Wilson. You can do the same with this podcast if you wanted to, but you can just get a storefront. Get a storefront, and you could have those private schools. You could have those daycares. You could have those adult, you know, bocos, you know, community centers. You can have that. But if you don't if you don't get a storefront, if you don't pool your money together, then what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? You know, you're not signing up for my class, so what are you doing? You get what I'm saying? But yeah, sign up for my class, obviously. I just want to add that the education of our youth doesn't even have to be as, modeled after how Wazungu currently, fools you, you know? In the Pro-Black Compendium, we have a curriculum, and to start the curriculum off, we have these certain attributes that you should develop. And what's interesting is that once upon a time, schools did seek to develop, even Wazungu schools did seek to develop, these attributes in a person, and by these attributes I mean like strength, agility, intelligence, charm, discipline, all that kind of stuff, right? And the thing is that here's the thing I want to emphasize, and I'm actually adding this, on Thursday morning, 11 a.m., and I'm just going to jump back into time, back to 4 a.m. or whatever, right? But here's what I want to add here. That's very important that we don't seem to get, is that you can use these schools to evaluate young people on these sort of subjects, and then help them with occupational placement in the wider society. So you can evaluate people on intelligence and wisdom, the old-fashioned way. How well do they write? How good they do math? So on and so forth, right? How are they in the liberal arts, if you will, right? But also you can evaluate them on dexterity. how accurately do they shoot 50? Let's just use the Wazungu measurements. 50 meters away, 100 meters away, 150, 300. How accurate are they from a larger and larger distance with a firearm? And then compare that to their classmates. You get what I'm saying? And these are the things that you can develop in the schools, because other school systems, even Wazungu school systems, but like other school systems do, require military service of their students. You get what I'm saying? They do require physical fitness, and the thing is that in a nation, that's what you can do, or even in your boko, which is another word for community center. That's what you can do for our people. And so you could have the daytime, just to stress, you could have the daytime daycare and the nighttime, party venue, or the nighttime lecture hall, whatever. It's limitless. But the whole thing is that you can also, particularly if you coordinate, if you have enough people, because again, if you have 20 people, it's, the income of the shared income would be twice that of the average income, right? And if you have 30 people, the shared income will be 3 times that of the average income. So if the average income is, just $800 or whatever, right? And the shared income is $2,400. And that right there is a huge difference, because again, you can definitely afford a storefront, maybe even 2. You get what I'm saying? Or a large storefront. And in a large storefront, you can have multiple things going on. You can have a back room that's a war room. But I don't want to distract too much from the original podcast. So, we're going to go back to it. But I just wanted to add that, in the terms of the instruction of our youth, we can evaluate our youth in a different way. We don't have to do it the same way as they do. And of course, we'd benefit from that. And just to stress that in the ancient African tradition, right, being strong was important. You get what I'm saying? Being strong was important. And you could even make it as a factor, just having like the best grades in the 8 different subjects, that 8 different attributes, can have you liable for, a high office in the society. Like you can be liable for like kingship per se, but just to backtrack, it could, and I say that because that's more on the system of what's in Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa. But even on a separate note, you can evaluate yourself on a high intelligence, and that could be, you can fit somewhere high in government, or you can evaluate yourself high, or scientific exploration, let's say, or you can fit yourself high in wisdom, and you could be in the institutionalization of values. You could high in strength and be, in the military structure. So it's or discipline and being, so those are the things that we have to take into consideration, that there's a lot that can be done, a lot that we can have. And yeah, I'm going to include this in the Oncobia. Well, I hope to include this into the Oncobia Constitution. But that's another reason why you need to get that book. And of course, keep dialoguing with me. Come to the classes. I'm going to stress that again. Come to these classes so that I can hear more. I actually, just to cut off, I had this conversation with one of the brothers that's going to be in the class, and he was telling me about the education system, matter of fact, in Kenya, and like the ghettos they're in, and how people can't, like, young people can't afford the school fees, and so they don't pride themselves on doing those sort of things. This is this is fundamental. We have to, the instruction of the youth, like I said, that's in the Constitution. So you can, in the Constitution, say, hey, look, school fees are going to be covered. You get what I'm saying? School fees are going to be covered. You know, and especially in this modern age, we can say, hey, school fees are going to be digitalized. You know, the kids are all going to have ebooks, you know, as created by the state, whatever. And monies can go toward that, you know, or they're going to have access to printers, you know, that kind of stuff. But the whole thing is that there's a lot that can be covered, and it's without this constitution, it's a lot of bulk. It's a lot of nonsense. It's just personal opinions. And personal opinions never, you know, like they're nothing. They're nothing. But anyway, back to the 4 a.m. podcast. Let's go to the next one. The next one is the national color. Number 20. The national colors shall be black and red. For those of you who are watching this online, the visual is the flag of Ayiti that Dessaline established, and it's black and red, which is interesting because, you know, the Pan-African flag is red, black, and green, and of course the Pan-African flag came way after, like 100 years after, or more than 100 years after. But it's just interesting that black and red were the colors chosen. Number 21 is agriculture, as it is the first, the most noble, and the most useful of all the arts, shall be honored and protected. Number 22, commerce, the second source of the prosperity of states, will not admit of any impediment. It ought to be favored and specially protected. Number 23, in each military division, a tribunal of commerce shall be found, whose members shall be chosen by the emperor from the class of merchants. You know, so there's a tribunal of commerce, and its members should be chosen by the emperor, right? Number 24, good faith and integrity in commercial operations shall be religiously maintained. So they're going to have honest markets, right? Number 25, the government assures safety and protection to neutral nations and friends who may be desirous of establishing a commercial intercourse with this island, they conforming to the regulation and customs of a country. So unfortunately, or whatever, for whatever reason, not unfortunately, you got to understand the years, 1805. Ayiti is the first black republic, right? I guess republic means that it has a constitution or something, right? Whatever. But it's the first black republic, and of the modern world, the Ma'afa. It's pretty much alone at this point. You understand? Like, Jamaica didn't exist at this point. If you understand what I'm saying. Jamaica didn't exist. Trinidad didn't exist. Whatever else, right? Now, of course, Africa had its own nations, but I wouldn't know how like Ayiti was interacting with Africa at the point. You know, I wouldn't know. I couldn't say. Anyway, let's go to 26. And not to say that they weren't interacting. I'm just saying I couldn't tell you because Nzinga was interacting with Africa, you know, while she was fighting, you know, in Angola. So, you know, there's no question that, you know, like there's no question that there was some interaction between the two. It's just that, you know, like let's just be real. Like you exist in a world, you know, you exist, like there's a global market, and the thing is that you can avoid the global market, but again, it relates back to the number of Ancobia. Like I said, you know, in Zuberi and the Maroons of Maa, they describe this world with different Maa nations and Maa kingdoms. You get what I'm saying? And the Maa Confederation, or the Maa Federation, I can't remember the name because it's based off of historical confederacy. But the whole idea is that, you know, you have that, and because of that, sorry, it's a Maa Federation, right? But you have those nations, and they can interact with each other. They can trade with each other. They don't have to trade with white people. But again, you got to go back to 1805. 1805, like Ayiti is surrounded by white nations. You get what I'm saying? It's just a totally different. And not that this constitution even specified white nations, but it's just something to bear in mind in the language too, right? So number 26, the counting houses and the merchandise of foreigners shall be under the safeguard and guarantee of the state. Number 27, there shall be national festivals for celebrating independence, the birthday of the emperor and his august spouse, that of agriculture and of the Constitution. And then number 28, and this is really important too. Really, 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 really important, right? Number 28 says, at the first firing of the alarm gun, the cities will disappear and the nation rise, right? So what that means is that the Ayiti has to always be ready for war. That's what it means. Ayiti has to always be ready for war. The cities is pretty much, let's say there's commerce and, all that, commerce and festivities and fun. And the nation is the battle. You get what I'm saying? And that's why, you gotta understand what nationalism means. Nationalism is a body of war in a sense. You're a national. America is a nation. It's a nation. Germany is a nation. France is a nation. Ayiti is a nation. You as, particularly if you're like, say, from, America, right, and you're African, right? You're not a nation. You might. You're a nation insofar as every African person is a nation, but you're not a strong or powerful nation if you're not operating with your brothers and sisters. If you're not organized with your brothers and sisters, then you're not a powerful nation. You're just a nation of one, and that's nothing to be afraid of. Anyway, let's just finish this off, right? It says, we, the undersigned, placed under the safeguard of the magistrates, fathers and mothers of families, the citizens, and the army, the explicit and solemn covenant of the sacred rights of man and the duties of citizen. We recommend it to our successors and present it to the friends of liberty, to philanthropists of all countries, as a signal pledge of the divine bounty, whose the course of his immortal decrees has given us an opportunity of breaking our fetters and of constituting ourselves a people free, civilized, and independent. Signed, Henry Christophe, and as before, having seen the present constitution, we, Jacques Dessaline, Emperor the First of Ayiti, and Commander-in-Chief of the Army, by the grace of God and the constitutional law of the state, accept it wholly and sanction it, that it may receive with the least possible delay its full and entire execution throughout the whole of our empire, and we swear to maintain it and cause it to be observed in its integrity to the last breath of our life. At the Imperial Palace of Dessalines, the 20th May 1805, second year of the independence of Ayiti, and of our reign the first, Dessalines, by the Emperor Juste Chaland, Secretary General. So there you have it. That's the entirety of the Constitution, as far as I can tell from this website I got it from. But that's the thing you want to see, though. Henry Christophe himself signed this, and of course he betrayed it shortly after. And that's something that we have to bear in mind. And like even if you compromise with people, they'll probably still turn on you. And one thing I wanted to note, because I looked up Christophe, I was like, hey, I want to see, does this guy have like a white wife or something? He doesn't. He doesn't have a white wife. He has a black wife. And because of that, it's like you can't just judge people based off. You could judge people based off of like who they sleep with, obviously. But you don't stop there. You know what I'm saying? Don't stop there. We are the Oncobia. We have to be on point 24/7. If you're not Oncobia, don't front like you are. And if you front like you are, let's just say there's, like I said, we need a constitution to say that there's going to be punishment. But let's just say, vaguely and without any, authority, if you will, there's punishments. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say that. But and the thing is that I would fully endorse that. In the future, whatever it may be, let's have the Oncobia be a pure people. But just want to finish off with besides some with special thanks, I want to say, we gotta write a constitution. Obviously, we have to write a constitution. I'll probably take that task up for my next book. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for listening. Right? Thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate your continued patronage, if you will, even if it's just just hearing auditory. Definitely like that. This book was being more heavily promoted. Love that. I'm really upset that not too many people have signed up for this class. And when I say not too many people, I'm talking about not too many people. Although they're all wonderful individuals, so that's a good thing. But I really wish more of you were interested. But I'm going to make this really excellent class coming up September, and I want you to sign up for it. I really do. You can go to my website, africanbloodsiblings.wordpress.com, and you'll see where it says 10-week study course. I want you to sign up, okay? Like, no joke, I want you to sign up for these classes because they are to be very fruitful, very powerful conversations. Very, very excellent. Like the syllabus that I have prepared for you is one of a kind, if you will. And you don't need to buy any extra materials for this class. The class does have a small, $5 a week. Whoa, oh my gosh, $5 a week, right? But it's going to be immensely instructional, immensely, powerful, and I really do want you to be in there. So definitely listen to that. Apply to that. I want more. I want like full classrooms. I really do want that. And again, it's on your phone. It's just using WhatsApp. It's on your phone. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to. You get the course material through your phone. All of that. So definitely, apply to that. But outside of that, you can wait for my next book. It's going to be a really good book. We're going to have this Constitution, obviously. I don't know if we're going to have the other Constitutions, but I'm going to try to see if I can get the Oncobia Constitution in this thing. And then, we're going to take it from there. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. And, enjoy the African affirmation following this. And enjoy that. Thank you. Ashe, Ansah, and Hotep.
Thank you for listening. I invite you to join hands with your brothers and sisters as we recite the African affirmation together. It's a call and response, so follow my lead. We are an African people, robbed from our homeland, robbed of our names, our languages, our cultures, our religions, our womanhood, our manhood, our sisterhood, our brotherhood, our motherhood, our fatherhood, our selfhood, our nationhood, and our self-respect. But we shall rise, never to fall again. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.